Yo, what do you say to NFL fans? This is episode 4 of All That NFL Madness, bringing to you last week four's scores. It was, for the most part, I think so far, I want to say, other than the shock of the Minnesota Vikings playing out of their ass, it's been a real hard season to kind of as a football fan to really put into perspective because I think coming into this season, a lot of people had expectations on certain teams that so far have not been up to par. Another team being, to match my point, is the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now 0 and fucking 4 and who are basically riding on the Titanic as they lose another game, which they were in, and are absolutely winless, which makes me wonder how much longer Doug Peterson is going to be head coach. I can't really see this going on if they go 0-5 and 0-6, but we'll get to that when we cover the games. But for the most part, it's been not underwhelming, just different. I guess. I guess different because there's been a lot of turnovers from quarterbacks who we haven't expected to throw interceptions. Patrick Mahomes has thrown a pick every game. Jalen Hurts has thrown a pick almost every game or turned the ball over. We've seen Anthony Richardson shit the bed so far this season. He got knocked out last week. We've seen Kirk Cousins not look exactly like he's ready to play. And it's been, for the most part, kind of strange. Jumping into last week's games, last Thursday evening was a matchup of the NFC East between the Cowboys and the Giants. And if you watched that game, it was an absolute shit show from end to end. I mean, let's face it, the Cowboys, first of all, were missing a lot of pieces with injuries. The Giants the Giants are just a dead body, basically. They look like dead bodies. They can't beat anybody. They can't take leads. They can't hold on to leads. They kick field goals. Their offense is completely dead. Daniel Jones sucks, even though he's somewhat playing better. This is a disaster of a team. I can't see Coach the Bowl being back next year at all. I could see him finishing the season, but look, like I said, Schoen deserves to get fired as GM. That's all I'm going to say. And Mike McCarthy's not going to have a job much longer either if things continue there. Now, to his credit, it's not his fault that a lot of his players are injured. But anyway, it was a boring game. The Cowboys beat the Giants 20-15. In that game, we'll just go over some of the stats. Excuse me. Dak Prescott, again, had himself a decent game, 22 of 27 for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Dak's MO has always been he's not clutch, and we know what'll happen when he gets to the clutch moment. He will fold. $80 million down the drain. Cowboys can't run the ball. That's what it comes down to. Ezekiel, Rico Dowdell, none of these guys are legit number ones, and it's going to catch up with Dallas as the season goes on. Thank God that they have C.D. Lamb. He had 7 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Thank God they have Jake Ferguson, tight end, who had 7 catches for 49 yards. But other than that, I just don't really, I think it's overdone now with them. On the defensive side of the ball, Eric Kendricks, a veteran who just never seems to get old, 13 tackles leading the team. They did get 1 sack from DeMarcus Lawrence, who left the game early, as did Micah Parsons, and are both out for this upcoming week. So that's not good news for the Dallas Cowboys. On the Giants side of the ball, Daniel Jones, 29 of 42, 81 and a pick. I mean, the interception was kind of in garbage time, but it doesn't matter. He was only sacked once. Devin Singletary, 14 carries, 24 yards. Giants can't run the ball. So they came into the season with no running back and no tight end. That's a good way to go into it. And $40 million to Jim Carrey lookalike as your fucking quarterback. Really good job, the Bowl. Really good job showing you both suck farts. Malik Neighbors had himself a game. 12 catches, 115 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson, 11 catches, 71 yards. Here's something to think about. Malik Neighbors averaged 9.6 yards per catch. Wan'Dale Robinson, 6.5 yards per catch. What does that tell you? It tells me that the Giants do not have a long ball game because A, they can't protect Daniel Jones. B, he's not a really good pocket passer. And C, the receivers I like, but I just don't think the bowl can diverge a plan where he can sit back in the pocket, Jones, and distribute the ball long. I just don't see it. And that may not be the Bulls' fault, but to some extent it is. On the defensive side of the ball, the Giants had themselves one sack. Okay, that came from Kayvon Thibodeau, really good linebacker. He needs to get out of there big time because he's being wasted. But divisional game over. Cowboys go to 2-2 at 500. Giants fall to 1-3, 0-2 at home, on their way to winning 4 to 5 games, whatever it is. The Cowboys are not that far behind them because the Cowboys aren't that good as well. And anyone who says they are, go to a proctologist and pull your head out of your ass. The next game up was an absolute, complete, floundering pile of fucking goldfish sperm shit. The Jets and the Broncos. Okay, the weather was terrible. This was a horrible game from start to finish. The first half was totally wiped away by a rainstorm. Aaron Rodgers never really looked comfortable. Bo Nix looked like a rookie. This game could have put Rip Van Winkle to sleep. Think about that for a second. Broncos knock off the Jets 10-9. Typical New York Jet loss, right? Same old Jets. Typical loss. But there were some interesting stats in this one, to be honest with you. Bo Nix was 12 of 25 and completed 60 yards. Imagine that. You won in a game where you only threw for 60 yards. Did throw for a touchdown to Cortland Sutton, by the way, which was a nice segment. Javonte Williams, 77 yards on the ground. Jaleel McLaughlin, 46 yards on the ground. But Bo Nix threw for 60 yards and still found a way to fucking win. The Broncos on defense, they lost Alex Singleton for, I think, which is the season, but they got a lot of good play from P.J. Locke and Cody Barton. They did generate, which was most impressive, 5 sacks on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't intercept Aaronrodgers, who got banged up in this one. He was 24 of 42 for 225, sacked 5 times, and the Jets couldn't run the ball either. Breece Hall, I don't know what happened to him. He had 10 carries for 4 yards. He looked afraid, basically. Braylon Allen, 8 carries, 34 yards. Aaron Rodgers had 5 carries for 26 yards. Hey, Breece Hall, when your 40-year-old quarterback, which isn't old, it beats you for rushing yards coming back from an Achilles tendon, there's something wrong there. Through the air, Mike Williams, 4 catches, 67 yards. Alan Lazard, 5 catches, 58 yards. Garrett Wilson was held in check, 5 catches, 41 yards. Patrick Surtain, the second, kept him in check, and he also fumbled the ball. Other than that, the Jets did absolutely nothing. They didn't generate any sacks. Tony Adams, the safety, led the team in tackles with 11, but no sacks. And Bo Nix threw for 60 fucking yards and beat you. That's all I would keep saying if I was Coach Saleh. Okay, Robert Saleh, right? I'm a 49ers diehard. Robert Saleh was a great defensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. He should have been fired after last year. Jets lose 10-9. Shit game. A lot of memes going around about that one. Robert Saleh's head's on a fucking spit after that one. Bengals and Panthers, the revenge game. Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, comes home to roost. Stays in Carolina to roost, as they played in Carolina, to face his old team, the Cincinnati Bengals, who needed a win, very badly. Let's face it. They were 0-3, and they go 0-4. I don't know if head coach is even there anymore, and I think a lot of people are going to start coming down on Burrow, and this whole team is going to unravel, but it didn't happen. Bengals over the Panthers, 34-24. For the most part, it was a pretty good game back and forth. Andy Dalton, 25 of 40, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, showing that he's still a very valuable veteran who could possibly start on many teams. I think they're racist against redheads Chuba Hubbard had 18 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, man, coming along big, showing people why he was drafted, and a lot of expectations were made about him. Deontay Johnson continuing where he left off last week, 7 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Xavier Legette, 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. Carolina team's been very competitive the last 2 weeks, despite all the pieces that they're missing. On the defensive side of the ball, they didn't have a sack. They did get an interception from Xavier Woods for 33 yards. But other than that, it was mostly the Bengals. Joe Burrow, 22 at 31, 232, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Burrow has a lot of work to do in front of him to lead that team because that team has got to go on a streak of wins. Chase Brown finally arrived. 15 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zach Moss, 15 carries, 51 yards. They continue that duo. That'll bring Cincinnati a lot of luck. Jamar Chase, 3 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. T. Higgins, 6 catches, 60 yards. So all was pretty good through the air for the Bengals. And on the defensive side of the ball, Logan Wilson once again leads this team in tackles. He's such an underrated linebacker. The Bengals did not generate a sack whatsoever. They did get a pick from Von Bell for 32 yards. Most importantly, they win 34-24, go to 1-3 as Carolina falls to 1-3. And again, Carolina plays this way each week. I think they can say that they had themselves better than expected season because they're showing a lot of heart. The Saints and the Falcons was a very interesting game. You knew it was going to be close. I was looking at the matchup. It's not really a matchup, but 2 rookie receivers from 3 years ago, Chris Olave and Drake London. Falcons win this one 26-24. Like I said, it was an interesting game. I didn't have a chance to watch it, but I was sticking with it for the most part. Kirk Cousins, 21-35 for 238. He has not looked comfortable just yet. We're still waiting for him to reach a point where he feels like the old Kirk Cousins. It could, it may or may not happen this year. Bijan Robinson only ran 7 times for 28 yards, while Tyler Algier ran for 8 and led the team with 60 yards. Other than that, they stopped running the ball. Drake London, 6 catches, 64 yards. Darnell Mooney, 3 catches, 56 yards. Ray McLeod, 6 catches, 52 yards. What the fuck ever happened to Kyle Pitts? He was targeted 3 times and didn't have a catch. Did he sleep with someone's wife in that organization? Because you don't even hear his name anymore. The defensive side of the ball for Atlanta, I think, has really impressed, especially for Troy Anderson, who led the team with 17 tackles. Caden Ellis has impressed, of course. So the Falcons were able to only give up 26 points, which is sort of a little bit too much. Get 1 sack and 1 interception from Troy Anderson for 47 yards. That was returned for a touchdown. So my hat off to their defense as their offense is still trying to find its feet. And the Saints lose their second one in a row. Derek Carr, 28-36, 239 and a pick. Alvin Kamara, 77 yards on 19 carries and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara rebounding off of a very injury-riddled year last year. Chris Olave, 8 catches, 87 yards. Rashid Shaheed, 8 catches, 83 yards, looking like a legit number 2. Alvin Kamara, 7 catches, 42 yards. Where the hell is Juwan Johnson? I've never seen 2 teams that are prejudiced and racist against throwing to tight ends. It's discrimination without a doubt. It's ridiculous. We don't throw to fucking tight ends in Atlanta or New Orleans. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Paul Senadebo led New Orleans with 12 tackles, but that was pretty much it as Atlanta gets to win 26-24. Both teams now at 500. So, again, it's early in the season, but very competitive, close game. Always good to see that. The Rams and the Bears were next up. The Bears defeated the Rams 24-18 for a very much needed win, going to 2-2, keeping head coach Matt Eberflus afloat as the Rams fall to 1-3 in the NFC West. And in this game, obviously there was no Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua for the Rams, but it didn't stop them. Didn't stop Tutu Atwell, who again had a nice game. 4 catches, 82 yards. Both back-to-back weeks with 4 catches and a lot of yards through the air. Kyren Williams continues his onslaught. 19 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Matt Stafford, 20-29 with 224 yards and a pick. Rookie Caleb Williams, 17-23 for 157 and 1 touchdown. More importantly, he did throw a touchdown. 17-23 is not bad at all. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries, 93 yards. And DeAndre Swift through the air, 7 catches, 72 yards as the Bears hold out 24-18. Another tough, hard-fought win by the Bears. I think the Rams are basically showing you what they are. What they could be if they had Kupp and Nakua is a lot different, but I just don't see it, especially on the defensive side of the ball after losing Ernest Jones, right? On the defensive side of the ball for both, the Bears did generate 3 sacks. The Rams generated 3 sacks. Jaquan Brisker had a pick for the Bears. So the Bears stay afloat at 2-2, while the Rams fall to 1-3 in an NFC West that's basically two-team oriented between San Francisco and Seattle, as the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals are really not competitive whatsoever this season, nor will they be. Moving on from that game, it was the Vikings, the 4-0 what the fuck Vikings, 31-29 over the Packers. Now, to be fair, the Vikings led for a good chunk in this game. If you watched it or were following it, you'll know that at one point it was 28-0 Vikings. I don't know what Sam Darnell is on, but whatever he's on, a lot of other people get on it. Please, he's on fire. Darnell 20-28, 275, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Aaron Jones continuing where he left off, 22 carries, 93 yards against his old team. And Jefferson, 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Jordan Love came back from injury, perhaps a little too early. 32 of 54 for 389, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Not really the way you want to win a game. Josh Jacobs held to 51 yards on 9 carries. And Jaden Reed for the Packers, 7 catches, 139 yards through the air. The Packers did lose wide receiver Christian Watson once again, as this happens every friggin' season. Tough loss for the Packers. They had 1-2 in a row without Jordan Love. But again, I think that it's going to be an up and down season for them, although I do see a lot of talent there, a lot of good young talent on both sides of the ball. I just think it all depends on what Jordan Love there is and if he doesn't get injured. Quay Walker had a sack. Keyshawn Nixon had a sack. They even got a pick from Xavier McKinney. But, of course, it was the Vikings who came away victorious. On the defensive side of the ball, they only got themselves 2 sacks. So the Vikings have been just absolutely gelling on all cylinders. Hat off to head coach Kevin O'Connell and defensive coordinator Brian Flores. If they have this team dialed in deep, I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't think it's going to last all season long. I could be wrong. Next game was the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts over the Steelers in somewhat of an upset 27-24. In that game, Anthony Richardson got hurt once again. And who comes off the bench? Dun, 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 dun. Joe Flacco, calling Joe Flacco. You are needed to come in and bail out the Colts and Anthony Richardson and throw not 1 but 2 touchdowns. I like Joe Flacco so much more now than I ever did because I love that he's just basically coming out of a backup position and doing damage downfield. Flacco, 16-26, 168, 2 touchdowns. Not too shabby in the numbers there. Anthony Richardson was just 3 of 4 for 171. Jonathan Taylor continuing with a strong game, 88 yards on the ground. He looks to be back. Michael Pittman broke open, 6 catches, 113 yards. Josh Downs broke open, 8 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. So I don't know what's going on in Indianapolis, man, because Anthony Richardson gets hurt again. Another season, full season of this, and you won't see him back anywhere. E.J. Speed, the most underrated linebacker in football, probably led the Colts with 13 tackles. The Colts did get themselves 2.5, 3 sacks, so the defense trying their best to get it done. But this one, of course, I think came down to Joe Flacco just being clutch, making the throws when he had to. Justin Fields had a nice game, 22-34 for 312 and 1 touchdown. He also led the team in rushing with 55 yards. I wonder yet if Chicago was kicking themselves. I would say not just yet, but give it time. George Pickens, 7 catches, 113 yards. Pat Fryermuth, 5 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown. I think Pittsburgh is still looking for a legit number 2 wide receiver. Deshaun Elliott led the team with 12 tackles. Not the best outing for the Steelers as they fall to 3-1, giving them their first loss of the season. The Indianapolis Colts go to 2-2 without Anthony Richardson, who I believe will not play this week, as a lot of fans are calling for his head, which is very interesting, that being that it's so early, but they have probably run out of patience. Just a little patience. They don't have any. Eagles and the Buccaneers. How do we say this nicely? The Eagles absolutely suck big dinosaur penis, okay? Another guy that's going to get fired is Nick Sirianni. I don't know how this team feels about him right now. I don't know what's going on. All I know is Jalen Hurts didn't really have much to say about his relationship with Nick Sirianni when asked. But to be fair, Jalen Hurts has not looked like the Jalen Hurts from 2 years ago when he led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, although that was a different Eagle team with 2 coordinators who are now head coaches. Go figure how important coordinators are. Buccaneers, this was an interesting game because earlier in the week, I don't know how many people saw this, or earlier in the day, Baker Mayfield was asked about, I believe, the difference between him and Tom Brady. Tom Brady had called the game from the press box, of course, in this one. What is the difference between that now that he's there and Brady is not? And I'm paraphrasing this, but basically Baker Mayfield said how, well, when Tom was there was a lot more stress, and now that Baker Mayfield's there, things are a little bit laid back. And then, of course, Tom Brady answered that and talked about, I'm paraphrasing this again, I thought stress was not winning Super Bowls, which basically means, Baker Mayfield, you haven't won shit. You're not in a place to say anything, so shut the fuck up. Brady did go on to say that it wasn't daycare when he played. When he came there to win. And if he wanted to have a good time and have fun, he'd go to Disney World. Man, did you shut Baker Mayfield up. I think that quote from Mayfield spoke loud and clear to me. I mean, they ripped him a new asshole on ESPN. Shannon Sharp said it best, as did Teddy Bruschi and Stephen A. Smith, who I'm no fan of, but they were 100% right. They were basically saying that there are people like Jordan, like Kobe, like Brady, who do everything in their can to win, and the losses hurt more than the wins do, and they still look back at the losses and cringe. Baker Mayfield's not in that. In that, he's not even a hair on the ass of any of those guys. He's not in that discussion. Has he gotten better? Yeah, because he's probably in a better system with a better coach. But will he ever win a Super Bowl? I highly doubt it. And will he ever win multiple? Not going to happen. So he is exactly what he is. Sometimes people say things and they're telling you everything they can about themselves. And there you go. The Eagles are in trouble. This is not looking good whatsoever. I said they were overrated from the beginning of the season since last year. I said Jalen Hurts. I was not sold on his Super Bowl run, and this is why. Looking at that game, the Buccaneers did beat the Eagles 33-16. The Eagles fall to 2-2. Buccaneers go to 3-1, but this did not look good for the Eagles and Coach Nick Sirianni whatsoever. I don't think it's going to get any better for them. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs the way they're playing. I don't know if he'll last the season, to tell you the truth. I can't see it happening. Hurts, 18 of 30, 158, and a touchdown. He was sacked 6 times. I believe he fumbled. Yeah, he fumbled twice and lost one of them. That's how many turnovers compared with interceptions. I said before he threw an interception. I'm incorrect. He has turned the ball over with fumbles and interceptions in the first 4 weeks. Saquon Barkley, 10 carries, 84 yards. Saquon's going to do what he does every game. He's going to get you positive yards. I don't know why you stop running the ball. Dallas Goedert, 7 catches, 62 yards. Now, to be fair, there was no A.J. Brown. There was no Devonta Smith. So the Eagles were at a disadvantage. But that really shouldn't mean much because they should be prepared for when they don't have these guys. On the defense has looked terrible. And there was supposed to be a lot of money pumped into this defense, and I don't see it. Okay? The Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield was 30 of 47, 4-3-47, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Some phenomenal numbers by him. I just wish he'd keep his mouth shut more often to learn to play the harmonica, because the more he talks, the more he absolutely puts his fucking cleat in his anus. Bucks can't run the ball. Bucky Irving had 49 yards. Rashad White had 49 yards. They haven't had a legit running back, and I can't even remember. Mike Evans led the team with 8 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Chris Godwin having himself a solid season, 6 catches, 69 yards. On the defensive side of the ball, Levante David led the Buccaneers in tackles with 8. Also had 2 sacks. He's a phenomenal athlete. They were able to get not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 more sacks from the defense as they went on to crush the Eagles 33-16. I don't know, man. Like I said, this has been a very unpredictable season. Yet at the same time, I think that some of us expected some of these things, but not at this level just yet. I mean, if you would have told me the Eagles would have been this bad, I would have argued with you. I thought they'd be 3-1, something like that, but this does not look good whatsoever. And I don't think the future is going to be as pretty. Speaking of not being pretty, the Jacksonville Jaguars fall to 0-4 as they lose 24-20 to the Texans, a game they were fucking winning. I'll give them credit for that, but could not finish off the Texans. CJ Stroud had himself a game. Okay, 27-40 for 345 and 2 touchdowns. Without Joe Mixon, the Texans are obviously having trouble running the ball. Cam Akers, 53 yards on 13 carries, but through the air. Nico Collins, 12 catches, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 5 catches, 69 yards. Houston is not having a problem. On the defensive side of the ball, it seems to be stable, although I still don't think that defense is where it's at. And the Jaguars are 0-4. Trevor Lawrence had himself a better game, 18-33 for 169 and 2 touchdowns. Hey, nothing to shy away from. Came out, changed his game, changed his tone, had a much better game than he did last week. Tank Bigsby had 90 yards on 7 carries. Travis Etienne, 50 yards on 11 carries. Maybe they continue running the ball with that 1-2 combination, have better luck. Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie, another strong game. 6 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Christian Kirk, 7 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, so like I said last week, I don't think it's the wide receiver. I don't think it's all Trevor Lawrence. It's definitely not the running game. What the fuck is it with this team? I don't get what's going on in Jacksonville. I don't think they get it. They did only get 1 sack, I believe, 2 sacks rather. No interceptions. Texans go to 3-1. Jacksonville falls to 0-4, and there are reports that Doug Peterson could be fired in the upcoming weeks. We will have to wait and see. It's a shame because I thought Peterson was a good coach, and I thought he was getting better with them, but sometimes all you can do is coach and let the pieces fall where they may. You can't make these guys win for you, and you can't make them win for them. That's just the way it is. Commanders and the Cardinals wasn't even the game. The Commanders are red hot. 42-14, they blow out the Arizona Cardinals. Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, goes 26-30 for 233 yards and a touchdown. James Conner, 18 catches, carries 104 yards and 1 touchdown in a losing effort for the Cardinals. But an all-out ass-whipping by the Commanders. Jaden Daniels was 26 of 30, 233, a touchdown, a pick. This kid is not playing like a rookie. He doesn't talk like a rookie. He doesn't act like a rookie. He looks like he's been there. Brian Robinson Jr. has been a godsend for Washington. They were without Austin Eckler for this one. 21 carries, 101 yards and a touchdown. Also, Jeremy McNichols, a guy who's bounced around, drafted by Tampa, went to San Francisco, Tennessee, and now in Washington. 68 yards on 8 carries, 2 touchdowns. And Jaden Daniels, 8 carries, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Rookie of the year by far. Olamide Zaccheaus, 6 catches, 85 yards. Terry McLaurin, 7 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown, continuing where he left off. So don't blink on Washington, man. Don't blink on them. On the defensive side of the ball, they had multiple guys with sacks, half or full, 4 altogether. Bobby Wagner had a half a sack. Frankie Lavu, ex-Jet, had a half a sack. Jonathan Allen had a sack. Dorrance Armstrong had a sack and a half, and Daron Payne had a half a sack. So this Washington defense was all over the place. Looking at things for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, 16 to 22 for 142, one touchdown. Not great numbers, but not horrible. He's looked like the old Kyler Murray. Rookie Troy Benson had 50 yards on 9 carries. They're trying to get that 1-2 combination going as best as can. Marvin Harrison Jr. continuing another solid week, 5 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. But other than that, there was not much going on. And let's see, on the defensive side of the ball, Budda Baker, a safety I feel like has been around forever, led the team with 15 tackles, but not much going on for Arizona, who falls to 1-3 in the NFC West. And Washington goes to 3-1 atop the NFC East. So things are really getting interesting. You got to give Washington credit, man. You really got to give them credit. They've got some good young talent. And this Jaden Daniels is playing like, years, like he's been a veteran, man. He doesn't look like a regular rookie. That's kind of scary. And the next game was an absolute shit horror show. I couldn't watch it. The Raiders and the Browns. The Raiders beat the Browns 20-16. The Browns fall to 1-3. The Raiders go to 2-2. There is a lot of controversy this week as Davante Adams supposedly is yearning or wants to be traded from the Las Vegas Raiders. No one knows if that's going to happen. But supposedly Antonio Pierce liked a post that said something about Davante Adams wanting out. I don't know. These are grown men, and, doing this shit among social media is just an absolute joke. Looking at this one, Deshaun overrated Watson, 24-32 for 176, a touchdown and interception. Gardner Minshew, 14 to 24 for 134 yards. Not great numbers, but enough to get the win, so I got to respect that. Like I said, I think that's what Gardner Minshew does well. He can get you a win. Jerome Ford had 58 yards and 10 carries for the Browns. Alexander Mattinson had 60 yards on 5 carries. Zamir White, 17 carries, 50 yards. Zamir White has not lived up to the way he played last year in Las Vegas. They're not going to forget that. Jerry Jeudy on the Browns, 6 catches, 72 yards. Continues to impress because I thought he was a bust. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, Trey Tucker, 5 catches, 41 yards. Jacoby underrated Myers, 5 catches, 49 yards. Zamir White did fumble, lost the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, the Raiders were able to generate 3 sacks as the Browns were only able to generate 2, which is, again, this is a Browns team that's obviously in trouble. They're 1-3, and I think a lot of people thought they were going to be a lot better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But it goes to show you, when your offense isn't clicking, your defense is going to have a really hard time doing everything. And I think they're on the field too long. Plus, they have a banged-up Myles Garrett who did get 2 more sacks. He's like the one guy who finds a way to always keep things going no matter what's going on with him with injury. I mean, he there's a reason why he's probably the best defensive end in football. But nonetheless, they are 1-3. Coach Stefanski is also supposedly on the hot seat of getting fired, although I can't really see that happening. I have to blame the front office for throwing all that money to an overrated and finished Deshaun Watson because he's terrible. Okay. Chiefs and the Chargers was a good one. If you're like me, you were rooting for the Chargers hardcore. The Chargers were holding the Chiefs for a good chunk of the game, but like most things, that ended up not working out. I believe it was in the fourth quarter where the Chargers had the chance to punt the ball back to them or go for the first down on 4th down, which they failed to get, which gave Kansas City momentum for them to turn around and come back and win the game 17-10, pushing them to 4-0 as the Chargers fall to 2-2. But again, winnable game for the Chargers. I'm sure in time they're going to come back and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Mahomes was 19-29 for 245, a touchdown to pick. Again, he's throwing interceptions, man. That's concerning. Most importantly in this game, they lost wide receiver Rashee Rice, which I believe was a torn ACL, and have lost him for the season. So now they're down Isaiah Pacheco. They're down Rashee Rice. Thank God for Kareem Hunt, who played his first game with the Chiefs, 69 yards on 14 carries. But throwing the ball, I don't know how much more they can do without a legit wide receiver or a legit number one. Xavier Worthy, the rookie, still coming along, although he did have 73 yards on 3 catches for averaging 24 yards per catch with a touchdown. Traviskelce finally woke up. 7 catches, 89 yards. Other than that, I don't see Justin Watson or this overrated bust Sky Moore getting things done in the receiving corps. They need them stay. Maybe Devontae Adams goes there. Imagine that. That wouldn't be fair whatsoever. But for whatever the case may be, the Chiefs get themselves another W, 4 in a row, 4-0, and that's all that matters. Justin Herbert, 16-27, 179, a touchdown, playing with a banged up ankle. J.K. Dobbins comes back down to earth as he's held to 32 yards. That's my hat off to the Chiefs. That's a testament to Steve Spagnuolo and that defense. Ladd McConkey, another solid game for the rookie. 5 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Other than that, Chargers need a wide receiver. Maybe Devontae Adams goes there. On the defensive side of the ball, Bud Dupree did have 2 sacks, and they did force an interception. Christian Fulton picked off Patrick Mahomes and returned to 29 yards. But again, when you give Kansas City a chance, preferably at the end of the game, they're going to take it and they're going to run it right up the flagpole, right up your ass. And there's nothing you can do about that. So this is just a very well-coached team, a team with experience, a team that has camaraderie that goes on for many years. If you don't think that's important, I got news for you. It is. The more experience players have with other teammates, the better it makes them, I think. And, of course, the Chiefs, a good chunk of them, I should say, of that roster have been around with each other for a few seasons now. Sunday night game was an absolute washout. The Ravens 35-10 over the Buffalo Bills. Bills were never in this game. Derrick Henry just ran wild all over the Buffalo Bills. Henry was 24 carries, 199 yards, and a touchdown. Lamar Jackson only had to be 13 of 18 for 156 and 2 touchdowns. Josh Johnson came in. Josh Allen, 16-29 for 180, did not throw a pick. Porn star lookalike Mitchell Trubisky came in. He really needs to shave that mustache. Lamar Jackson also did have 54 carries on the ground. Justice Hill, the running back, led the Ravens. 6 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Mark Andrews, veteran Pro Bowl tight end for Baltimore. No catches in this game as he was just targeted once. People are concerned about what's going on with him. Is he injured? Is there something off? Has he just been not part of the offense? Who knows? Couldn't tell you. For the Bills, Khalil Shakur, 4 catches, 62 yards. Rookie Keon Coleman, 3 catches, 51 yards. And tight end Dalton Kincaid, 5 catches, 47 yards, giving Buffalo their first loss of the season, which was a crusher. Kyle Van Noy, 2 sacks. The ageless veteran for Baltimore. I believe he leads the league in sacks. Looking great, man. And Buffalo just really was never in this one. I guess if you're going to beat Buffalo, that's the best way to do it. Never give Josh Allen a chance. Never give, them a chance to get going. You just want to stomp on their heart, step on their throat, like Baltimore did. And this is scary because Baltimore is giving you a glimpse of what they can be and who they can be, but I think it depends on a lot of things. Monday night had 2 games, which I really liked, the dual games on Monday night. The Titans beating the Tua Tagovailoa Dolphins 31-12. It was a horrible game. And the Seahawks and the Lions was very exciting. The Lions over the Seahawks 42-29, giving Seattle their first loss of the season. Titans and Dolphins in Miami. Tyler Huntley, a second or third string on Baltimore, got the start. He was 14-22 for 96 yards. Didn't look terrible, but never really looked comfortable. It was bad, man. The Dolphins also lost Jalen Phillips in this one to a knee injury. The injuries keep piling up for them. I think things are definitely unraveling in Miami as they fall to 1-3. But running the ball, Tyler Huntley led the way with 40 yards on the ground. Rookie Jalen Wright and Devon Achane were no were no-shows, basically. Tyreek Hill held to 23 yards. Jalen Waddell held to 36 yards. So it seems to me without Tua Tagliova, they just can't throw the ball worth the shit. Which again puts pressure on this defense. For the Titans, Will Levis was knocked out of the game early on with a shoulder injury, although really shocking to me. He's standing on the sideline with his helmet and still in pads for the rest of the game, looking like he could play. Then why the fuck I want you out there? Backup race Mason Rudolph did take over. Modest numbers, 9 to 17, 85 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Basically managing the game. Tony Pollard had 88 yards on 22 carries with a touchdown. Backup running back Tajay Spears had a touchdown on the ground. And through the air, it was hardly anything going on for Tennessee, which was rather boring to see, to be honest. And only 2 sacks for the Tennessee Titans. But they get their first win, go to 1-3, and the Dolphins fall to 1-3. You know, the sad thing is Tennessee, I think, is a lot better than their record shows. They probably could have won 1 or 2 of those games, but like I said, you know, it's shoulda, woulda, coulda. And of course, they're under new coach Callahan with new quarterback Will Levis. So it'll be interesting to see how and where they finish. And then for the last game of Monday night, it was, of course, the Lions over the Seahawks 42-29. This was a real exciting one. It was going back and forth. Geno Smith had himself a game, 38 of 56 for 395, a touchdown interception. Look, let's stop everything and just give a big shout out to Geno Smith, who has never given up and is right now making the New York Jets and the New York Giants eat shit for not keeping him around, because he's playing pretty damn good, man. On the ground, Kenneth Walker had 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is an absolute tank. Go look at some of the highlights of him running the ball. Damn, does he run the ball hard. DK Metcalf, 7 catches, 104 yards. He's an absolute freak show. Tyler Lockett, 5 catches, 61 yards. Jackson Smith-Najiba, 8 catches, 51 yards. And Jack Charbonnet had 5 catches for 39 yards. So this is a talented Seattle Seahawks team. I don't know how much more they'll be able to maintain this luck as their schedule gets more interesting. But for so far, they are 3-1 atop the NFC West. On the defensive side of the ball, the Seahawks did generate 3 different sacks, no interceptions. The Lions, Jared Goff was a perfect 18 of 18 for 292 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's all you want to see out of your quarterbacks. 18 of 18. It's perfecto. Amon-Ra St. Brown threw a touchdown pass. Not only does he catch him, but he throws him now. Jamal Gibbs, 78 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. The combination of Gibbs and Montgomery is just very good, man. A lot of in that offensive line, teams are going to have trouble with that. Jameson Williams, 2 catches, 80 yards. With a touchdown that came at the end of the game. Amon-Ra St. Brown not only just threw for a touchdown, but he also caught one. You know, look, the Lions are going to be as good as the Lions can possibly be. My beef with them is their defense. They gave up 29 yards. And again, I think after a while, these yards and points that you're hemorrhaging are going to catch up to you. And it reflects bad on Aaron Glenn, I think, defensive coordinator. But nevertheless, you know, like I said, this is a team that has a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I just am waiting for something to happen with them. That's just me. I don't know what it is. Call me biased. I don't know, because we played them in the NFC Championship game last year, 49ers being that. But again, it's really early. But this was a hell of a game. It was going back and forth. It felt like an old school kind of shootout. But, you know, Detroit did pull it out. And again, you know, Seattle was in this game a lot of the time. I don't know, again, right now, like I opened this podcast with, it's been very strange. Obviously, the best team in football was the Kansas City Chiefs at 4-0. But will that continue? I don't know. No Pacheco, no Rashee Rice. If they can continue this without those 2 guys, I mean, that says so much more about them than is being said right now. So we'll have to see what happens there. And on the other side of that, the other side of that coin is Jacksonville, who's 0-4. And again, I don't know how long Doug Peterson is going to hang around. I don't know how much longer management is going to put up with this. Is it Peterson's fault? I couldn't really tell you. I can't put the blame on Trevor Lawrence. I can't put the blame on their running game. I can't put the blame on a lot of their passing game, and I can't put the blame on their defense. I just don't think they're gelling together. Now, Coach Belichick had a very interesting take on this early this week. He was saying how just because you're 0-4 doesn't mean the season's over, and he's right. A lot of teams could make the playoffs with 4 losses, but we all know it's not just going to be 4 losses for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're not going to. I mean, it's possible they don't lose another game. I don't know. But until that offense really kicks in and just really goes into overdrive, I don't know what to tell you because I like Doug Peterson. Guy won a fucking Super Bowl. But you go to Jacksonville and you can't win Ugats. And even him in that press conference, as you saw, he said, blame me, put the blame on me. But he also said that as coaches, we cannot go on the field to make plays for the players. So what does that tell you? That tells you that it's on them, which doesn't sit good, I bet, with the players. But I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on there. It's just a disaster, and I'm sure those fans have just about had it. But it was somewhat of a up and down type week in football. Coming up this week, there's a couple of good games that should be interesting. And into an interdivisional game of the NFC West, the Niners and the Cardinals go at it. The Buccaneers and the Falcons go at it tonight on Thursday night. The Jets travel to London to play the Vikings, which should be interesting because Aaron Rodgers did have a banged up knee. Sam Darnell is red hot, so we'll see what happens with that one. But like I said, it's week 5 already, and I think things are somewhat heating up. But at the same time, things are kind of a little bit mundane, but that happens. But look, every season brings these things, man, and every week brings these things. You can never predict anything in this league. You can never really put your money down on one thing to happen, and that I think is part of the joy and the excitement of what happens. So let's see what happens this week. It should be interesting. We'll see if any firings happen. We'll see if Devontae Adams stays put. Maybe he goes somewhere during the deadline. I don't know. I can't see Coach Pierce being fired really in his first full year. So, and who knows if Robert Saleh will have a job. Let's see. All right. This has been all that NFL Madness. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you on the next episode. Peace.